My current journalistic gigs is writing for a publication called the Enterprisers Project about digital transformation. Why digital transformation? Because when those two words appear in the headline, they get a lot of traffic from Google and from Twitter and from other social media, people clicking through, wanting to read those articles. Now, almost everybody in the industry, including my editor, will say that it's a dumb term. Why? Because computers have been digital all along. Those things that were powered by punch cards were digital to some extent. We've been getting more digital a little bit over time. But the reason that the phrase keeps getting used is it's useful shorthand for all the transformational business opportunities that come from the web, mobile computing, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, machine learning, which is related to that. They're all becoming exponentially more important every year, and they're combining, they're creating new possibilities. Now, if your eyes are glazing over because I've just thrown out a bunch of tech jargon, let me start with an example that will be familiar to most of you. Blockbuster Video. You remember Blockbuster? Mm-hmm. If there were some younger people in the room, I would have to explain the concept of a video cassette and driving to the store to get a video cassette, putting it in a machine and hoping that the tape wouldn't break while you're watching the video. Blockbuster was a very successful nationwide chain. And in 2000, they were still very successful when somebody from a startup called Netflix flew to Dallas and visited with them. Their CEO, Reed Hastings, made a pitch that we should partner. We'll bring our technology know-how, and you'll bring the Blockbuster brand, and we'll both be very successful. And of course, they were laughed out of the room because Blockbuster was the giant, it was very successful, and this little online commerce thing, well, that was a side business, and they could figure that out for themselves, right? Well, if the only thing that Netflix brought to the table was a knowledge of web programming, Blockbuster might have been right. But what Netflix brought was an understanding that the technologies that were available to them allowed them to do business in a different way. One of the things people really hated about Blockbuster was paying late fees when you forgot to bring that video cassette back to the store. Late fees were a big part of Blockbuster's revenue model. Netflix didn't have late fees. They decided to have a subscription model. So members would sign up and they would have the opportunity to have so many videos checked out at a time. So this isn't the streaming video model that they have today. They've been fairly successful in evolving towards that. But at the time, they were taking advantage of a relatively new technology called the DVD. The DVD was relatively convenient to slip in an envelope and mail out to people. And the idea was, once you mailed the video back, you could get another video. No late fees. There was no hurry about it. You could only have so many checked out at a time, but you weren't going to get fined. So that was one bit of flexibility. They also built a very powerful recommendation engine. So they learned a lot about what people's taste was in movies so that they could recommend other videos to them. And that has continued to be a strong asset as they had to evolve into this streaming area where they do have more competition. Now, I'm getting most of this history from an article in Forbes that talks about the fact that Blockbuster's CEO was not a dummy. He did see the threat, after a couple of years, after Netflix was coming along. And he went to his board and he got them to agree that they should eliminate the late fees and try and evolve their business model. Except he got kind of a backlash, and that decision got reversed. There were activist investors who were saying, why are you throwing away a big part of your revenue? They drove that CEO out, and the people who remained in charge drove the business into the ground. So there are quite a few stories of businesses that have changed significantly in the last few years. There's Uber disrupting all the taxi and limousine services. And again, it wasn't just technology, it was the fact that they understood that they could put an app on your phone, and the app would use the location capability of the phone to say where you were. And you could summon a car to anywhere in the city, anyway, and it would show up and they would give you updates over your phone about when it would arrive. So, eventually taxi companies tried to find their own apps. They banded together to try and come up with something competitive. But Uber was the one that had built the brand around that convenience, around not having to hassle with paying the driver because you just use the account on your phone or you use PayPal or something. So there are success stories too. And, one of my favorites, a local one, some friends of mine, Jim and Chris Gold, have evolved their business. A few years ago, they were in the computer training business, as in classroom training, where you would go in and take courses in how to use Word or Excel or whatever. Well, they saw that business starting to die down, and they wanted to travel. So they established a company called Geeks on Tour, where they travel around the country in an RV, and they give technology for travelers lessons at different RV camps. And that business has changed significantly since they started too, because originally they were training people on how to use different PC programs. Now everybody wants to know how to use their phone, how to organize those pictures to the grandchildren and of all the places that they visited. So Chris became an expert in Google Apps. She's gone out to the Googleplex and gotten training and gotten recognition. So the three things I want you to remember about digital transformation is it's not just about the technology. It's about imagining the possibilities of technology. And then there's also the little matter of execution. You have to get everything else right. Mr. Toastmaster.